So I was actually planning on making a video about how bad it was that Riot removed the hextech chests after years of people being able to earn skins for free. But there's actually a much bigger problem with the hextech chests than what people are talking about right now in terms of the, rug pulling that they did with that and, the community backlash to that. The bigger problem is that introducing hextech chests to the game in the first place has caused a sharp drop in profitability for League of Legends, which has ultimately shaved years of life off of the game permanently before the game is ultimately thrown to the wayside. And we're going to take a look at some numbers to talk about that right now. So according to this website, we've only gotten snippets of financial data from League and from Riot because it's not a publicly traded company. It's owned by Tencent. And so there's not a lot of great public information about it. But League often, and companies do this all the time, will brag about their revenue, which is the amount of money that they're bringing in, but not talking about their expenses. And so we don't exactly know what the profits are. We don't exactly know what the expenses are, but we can get a good idea of what's going on from the revenue and also think about what their profit and expenses might be. So, for example, what we can see is that if this is accurate, League of Legends revenue peaked in 2017, which is now 8 years ago. So League of Legends profitability and revenue probably peaked 8 years ago. It was 2.1 billion in revenue in 2017. By 2020, just 3 years later, it was down from 2.1 billion in revenue to 1.75, even though it was the peak of the pandemic when people were spending even more time playing games. And then the revenue dropped to 1.63 billion in 2021. And now, to make matters worse, even though Riot has launched several successful games since 2017 that they didn't have before, such as TFT and Valorant and Wild Rift, and games that they can monetize much better than League of Legends because they're new and so nobody owns any cosmetics or content for them, and because they can charge more for skins in a game like Valorant by setting a new floor and a new standard than they could with a game like League where people are used to some lower prices. We're down to a point now where if we look at 2023, Riot Games' annual revenue as an entire company was down from that 1.63 billion down to 1.5 billion. And that's including the revenue that they're bringing in from Valorant and from Wild Rift and from TFT and any other games that they're making some money off of. So this is a disaster because we don't know exactly what League of Legends is doing in 2023 or 2024, 2025. But what we do know is that their entire company's revenue in 2023 is less than it was, a whole 100 million less than it was in 2021 on just League of Legends alone. And of course, Riot Games' expenses have probably also increased over the years because they're developing more new games and more content than ever before. They spent a ton of money on Arcane. They're spending a ton of money working on all these other games. And over the past couple of years, they've spent a lot of money working on developing Valorant, developing TFT, developing games that flopped like Runeterra, developing Wild Rift, working on their upcoming MMO, and again sinking a bunch of money into Arcane. So now all of a sudden we have a situation where Riot's expenses, we don't know exactly what they are, but have probably gone through the roof in the last couple of years as they've tried to develop new projects that are going to sustain and grow their profitability in the future. At the cost of their current profits now. So they're investing for the future. So their expenses have been way, way, way up, and their revenue has been way, way, way down because they went from 2.1 billion in revenue in 2017 on League of Legends alone to 1.5 billion in revenue as an entire company on League, Valorant, Wild Rift, and TFT. So this says very, very bad things for Riot Games, but especially for League of Legends because, and we don't know, so this part is a little bit speculation, but let's say League of Legends is now accounting for half of Riot's annual revenue and that they're getting the other half from all of those other games. If League of Legends only makes up half of Riot's annual revenue, then League of Legends revenue in 2023 could be down to $750 million. So it could be down from 2.1 billion in 2017 down to $750 million or or thereabouts as an estimate. So I think it's very reasonable to say that League of Legends has probably become 50% less profitable and 50% less revenue. That's how much of a decrease they've seen since 2017. So over the last 8 years, League of Legends has probably seen a 50% decrease in revenue. And that lines up with what we've been seeing. I've been talking for a while now, a long time, about how if you go to the ranked leaderboard and look at the total number of players that are on the ranked leaderboard on sites like op.gg, you can see that in specific regions, the game has really died. In NA, there's half as many people playing on the leaderboards as there used to be. And right now, if you look at the op.gg leaderboards, it's a little bit misleading because it's early season. So when you see numbers like 600,000 compared to there used to being 2 million, that's not quite accurate because people are still coming back and playing their placements over the year. But the fact that we were consistently at about 1 million, even at the end of last season and stuff like that, compared to 2 million players previously, I personally believe, as someone who obviously knows a lot about the game, follows the leaderboards and stuff like that as a top player, I'm pretty confident to say that League of Legends has lost 50% of their player base over the last couple of years, maybe since 2017, but they've definitely lost 50% of their player base in NA. Now, I hear that in China and Korea and in emerging regions and stuff like that, the game is still growing and doing well. But in NA, the game is literally losing over half of their players over the last couple of years. And in EU, it's pretty stagnant, the total number of players. So very bad situation for League. So what does this have to do with the hextech chest? Well, it's no surprise that the hextech chests were introduced in 2016, sometime in the middle of the season in 2016, right before Riot saw its peak profitability and revenue with League of Legends, and then things started to decline from there. And I just want to show you how bad hextech chests are for League of Legends as a game. It's not just that they took them away from players, it's that League of Legends as a game, or any free-to-play game, kind of has a limited shelf life. Because the way that it works is you have to pay a lot of money, especially if you're updating the game and making new content, to pay people to balance the game, to make new skins, to make new champions, to run, everything and all this stuff. And of course, they could function on less employees, which they're trying to do now. They've also started to cut back staff because of this. But you do have to have a lot of people running the game. And obviously people who like League are fans of the cinematics and all this extra content that they produce for the game, subsidizing esports and all of that stuff, so that is a thing that exists and is entertaining to watch and all of this stuff. And so the issue here is that when we think about what Hextech Chess did to the game, it's not just that they took away some money that Riot could have made in profits, or that, they took away, our potential to gain more free skins. It's that Hextech Chess being introduced and kept in the game for such a long period of time in the first place has shaved years off of the life of League of Legends. Because here's what happens. When you have a game like League, when are you going to make most of the money, or where's the revenue coming from? Well, it's when a player gets utility out of buying cosmetics and skins. So maybe you get the most utility out of buying your favorite skin for your favorite champion, right? You're a new player coming into the game, you don't own any cosmetics, any skins whatsoever, and as you start to really enjoy the game, you buy a couple of skins for your main champions in your main role and that sort of thing, right? So where is most of the profitability coming from with these free-to-play games that are structured like League? It is new players coming in. Well, we have a problem there, because if most of our money up until 2017 was made from new players coming into the game who didn't own any skins and now buying some cosmetics, well, there's no new players, especially in regions like NA, coming into the game at all. So if there's not new players coming in to make up for the old players that are leaving, if there's barely any new players, you're not making any revenue there like you were, because you've saturated the game's market already. And so there's not a lot of money to be made with new players, because there's just not that many new players to League. There's not that much money to be made from old players, because old players like myself already have their favorite skins, already have a couple of skins for their main champion, and probably a skin for most champions in their main role that they would likely consider playing. And so you get to a point where the current player base is already oversaturated with all the skins that they could want, either because they've already bought them or because they were given so many away for free with the loot boxes, which we'll get into, or there's just not that many new players coming into the game. Well, one way you can try to make money is by introducing new champions that nobody has any skins for, but only a couple of % of the player base is going to end up playing those champions and wanting a skin for it. And the other people are probably, a huge percentage of those people are just going to ignore those new champions because the champion's not for them, or it's not in their role, or they're just not that interested. So what percentage of people do you think are going to buy a new skin just because there's a new champion released? Maybe 3-4%. If 2% end up playing the champion or something like that, maybe 3-4% buy a skin for it. So a very small percentage of people who are playing the game are going to, so there's some revenue boost from releasing a new champion, but not a ton, right? Not compared to the early days of League in terms of the revenue you were making, especially if there's less players to consider that new champion anyways, because you're getting maybe 4% of a smaller pool of players to buy the skin. On top of that, you can't do as many champion releases per year as you used to, because you're still trying to balance keeping the game simple enough for new players to want to come into the game, while also releasing new champions frequently enough that you can sell those skins for those champions. And so you end up with a situation where we're only releasing 2 or 3 new champions a year. So the number of new players coming into the game who don't have cosmetics, who could potentially spend a lot of money on the game, is way, 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 way down, because the game's been out for 15 years and has saturated its market. The number of current existing players that are likely to buy a skin is low, because they've already got a bunch of skins, because they've been playing the game for so long that they've collected a lot of skins, either through buying or through the loot system. And even if you release a new skin for their main champion, it's competing with all of the other skins that exist for that champion, because unless it's their favorite, or they're a rare person who's just trying to collect every skin for their champion, they're not likely to buy it. So even if you release a new skin for that champion, what percentage of the player base is going to buy it, any given skin? Probably pretty low. Like if they released a new Braum skin or something like that, I probably wouldn't even buy it unless it was really, really good and blew the best Braum skin out of the water. So we're talking about and maybe 2% of the player base mains Braum or something like that, or 1%. So what are you going to see? You're going to see, maybe half of those people buy it. You're literally talking about 1% of the people who play the game buying the skin. It's very, very, very low. So you're not going to make a whole lot of money on repeat skin sales for same champions that already exist. So all of your sources of revenue just go down and down and down the longer the game's out. Another thing that they get hit by is your target demographics financially. When you're young and you have a lot of disposable income, like when you're a teenager and you're first getting into a game like League, way more likely to spend that disposable income on a game like League. But when you're older, when you're 24, 25, even younger than that, you're 21, 22, you're getting your life together and you have some serious real world expenses now, right? And the economy is not great. People don't have a lot of disposable income compared to previous generations. So you're not going to spend money on a skin, and League's player base is aging out of that disposable income bracket into the young adult trying to establish yourself demographic. And so you also have that working against you as well. So for all of these reasons, as League gets older as a game, regardless of the loot box system, it was going to get less profitable over time. But hey, maybe it would have, been profitable enough to run the game because it was such a popular game for 20 or 30 years or something like that. And then you get to the end of its life, and then you start introducing $200 skins, $500 skins. You start milking the whales, and maybe the game can survive for another 5 years or so by just being funded by these whales who have a lot of money to throw away at the game, who just really love to fund the game or whatever. So fine, then you survive a little bit off of that, and then eventually the game becomes non-profitable. Maybe Riot creates another game, and that game is popular enough and profitable enough, some gacha game, and they actually do care enough about League of Legends to subsidize League of Legends, and even if the game's not profitable, keep the servers on, keep the lights on, by funneling that money from another game to League. But we're already in that late stage, and I feel like the loot boxes shaved years off of the life of League of Legends because they gave away so much of this limited profitability that the game had, or limited revenue that the game was going to generate over its lifetime, based on the number of champions that were practical to release and how many people were playing the game and all this stuff. The game had a limited amount of revenue that you could possibly make from it. And if you maximize the revenue you can make from it, then you can let the game run for longer. But if you minimize the amount of revenue by giving so many skins away for free, you actually shave a lot of time off of the end of League of Legends life. And so what we can do is we can look at like the situation for skins with my account just as an example here. And so when I started playing, back in 2013, let's just compare the number of skins I'm getting a year. I got one skin, I think that was gifted to me. I got like a Victorious skin for free. This was gifted to me. I bought like 5 skins, so I might have actually bought like 5 skins this year. Then I get 7 the next year. This was a Victorious skin. I mean, I wouldn't have bought this. Maybe this was gifted to me or something like that. But I'm buying like maybe 5 skins a year or something like that. In 2016, they first introduced the loot boxes a full 9 years ago, and so I'm pretty sure I'm getting skins like Tyrant Swain, like Broloff, like SKT1 Lee Sin, and some of these things I'm getting from the loot boxes. Some of these I think I bought, like I think I bought Project Echo, and maybe these like the Nautilus and the Lulu skins and the Taric skin and the Ashe skin. I might have bought some of these. Some of these I might have gotten from Chess 2 though. But so this was really the last time I actively bought any skins, was in the middle of 2016. So I've gone ahead and I've looked at this, and I have probably only bought somewhere around, and I'm including skins that were gifted to me because somebody had to pay for them at some point, but I probably bought maybe 30 skins max over the time that I spent playing League. And yet, if we look at the total number of skins and look at how many look at this. In 2017, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is 6 times 5 is 31 skins just in 2017 alone. And almost all of these, probably all of them, were coming from free chess. Even my favorite Braum skins. Like, this was a skin that I couldn't purchase anymore, and so I had to get it from a chest. And so, there you go. So in 2018 and stuff, 2019, a lot of skins, 2020, same thing. I mean, look at all these skins that they gave me for free. So keep in mind, I stopped buying skins back in 2016. Look at how many skins they gave me for free. So I did the math, and I was given 146 skins for free from the loot boxes, and I wasn't even trying to min-max it. In fact, there was a period of years with the loot boxes where you had to earn that S to get a chest on a different champion than you earned it on before for the whole year. So if I was only playing Braum, I could earn 1 chest from Braum that year, which could potentially contain 1 skin shard, of which you probably need about 3 to get a skin. I could get 1 from just playing Braum, and I was mostly just playing Braum. And yet I managed to acquire, just from every once in a while I play a normal game with friends or I play a different champion in rank. I managed to acquire all of these mostly just playing Braum, not even trying to switch every week that I had a chest available or like go play normal games to earn chests and stuff like that. I was not min-maxing this at all, and yet I earned 5 times as many skins for free as I bought when I first started playing the game, and I didn't feel the need to buy any skins whatsoever, even for my main champion, since like back in 2015 or something like that. So it's been 10 years since I bought a skin for myself on this account. So it's like, do you see the problem here? Is imagine you're like a car dealership and somebody is going to buy 10 cars over their lifetime. And we're talking about a 5-to-1 ratio here. So we're talking about something like, if I were to buy, my first car with them, and then 10 years later I buy my second car with them, And then I come back every 10 years and they give me a free car 8 times for the next 8 years. That's what Riot did with their skins. And that's really nice of them to do that. But how much do I care about them doing that versus the game literally surviving? And so the problem is that what they did is maybe over the course, and I didn't want all of these. A lot of these are for random champions and stuff like that. But I mean, it got to the point where I was like trying to collect a skin for every single champion in the game. And I don't know how close I got, but if I own 176 skins, that's more than one per champion that there is. And there's probably only a couple of champions I have multiple skins for, that I play a lot. So I would imagine that I've come pretty close to getting a skin for almost every champion in the game. And so I have very little incentive to go and earn or buy more skins at all. And they're still giving, ranked skins away for free, and skins like this Elise skin they're giving away for free in the Battle Pass nowadays. So it's really, really bad, because what they ended up doing was giving away a huge, huge chunk of the revenue that League of Legends was going to earn over its lifetime as a game. And when you give away that much money, when you give away that much revenue, obviously it's going to lead to League having less money to fund itself for the future. And it's not really about the total amount of money that the game generates over its lifetime, because the company's not going to say, oh, well, we made, $10 billion the first 10 years, so it's okay that we lose $10 billion the next 10 years, and we'll just give all the money back to the game so that the game can last for 20 years. No, they're going to say the year that they get to zero profit, or the year after that, they're going to say, okay, game's done, shut down the servers. And so the reality is that when you've given away a huge chunk of the revenue of the profit that League of Legends would have made over its lifetime away for free, and just completely killed any shot of the company making that money over time in the future, because everyone owns so many skins for free nowadays, you've actually just shaved 5 years, 10 years off of the life of the game. So not only was this a financial mismanagement that was a disaster for profitability within the company, but this was a mismanagement that is going to lead to the death of the game much earlier than it needs to. And so again, unless Riot can somehow come up with a new system to make a ton of money off of the game, or subsidize the game from another game. But why would they do that? Only out of the kindness of their heart, or because they feel like having League of Legends die and people not playing it anymore being their core game that started the, what did they call it? Like a cinematic universe or whatever. Now, if they feel like letting League die would kill off the cinematic universe, or too many players would be disappointed and upset with them for it, then maybe they continue to subsidize League for a few years extra after it's not profitable anymore. But League is on a path to unprofitability. And, so that's just, it's really sad. It's really terrible. Keep in mind that even with League generating, when we go back to these numbers, again, we were saying that, if Riot Games is generating 1.5 billion in revenue, maybe League, compared to Valorant and Wild Rift and TFT, maybe League is accounting for half of that, and so maybe League's at around 750 million. If League is around 750 million in revenue, what are its expenses? Because League could already be at a point where it's only a couple of years away from not being profitable. I could easily see expenses on League of Legends, being slightly under 750 million. So we can see here that Riot Games' estimated revenue per employee is $288,000. So let's think about that number for a second. How much do you think Riot Games pays their average employee? And what do you think their expenses are besides just their personnel? They have all kinds of other expenses, like on buildings, on, all kinds of other stuff. Contractors, analysts, auditing, accounting, people that aren't directly employed by Riot, or, things like that. I mean, how much do you think their expenses actually are? Even if we're generous, and I think this could be low, let's say that Riot Games has an average expense of $100,000 per employee. I think that's on the low end, but the vast majority of Riot's expenses should be employees. It's not like they should have a lot of other expenses. They've got to rent their office space or own their office space and stuff like that. They're subsidizing esports. Like obviously League of Legends esports isn't profitable. Probably Valorant esports is not profitable. And so they're subsidizing esports tournaments and stuff like that, or entire leagues. So, when you think about that, it's probably worse than that. But let's just be, because we don't know the exact numbers. Even if their expenses were only $100,000 and they're making $300,000, let's just say, to keep the math simple, per employee as revenue. So they're not actually making $1.5 billion in profit. They're maybe, if we're being generous, making $1 billion in profit. And that's assuming their expenses are pretty low, which they're probably more expensive than that. So if they're making $1 billion, how much is League making? Maybe $500 million a year? So I know that sounds like a lot of money, but if League is making $500 million a year, we're definitely on a path towards the game not being profitable anymore. I know that that's a big number to a lot of people, but I'm telling you that for a game as big of a game as League of Legends is, and at how fast of a rate they're losing, or their profit and their revenue is declining, I mean, it could be non-profitable in 5 years. And if it's not profitable in 5 years, the game will shut down in 5 years. Maybe they subsidize it for another 2 or 3 years after that, from other games, if they find a lot of success with Valorant over the next 10 years, or with a new game over the next 10 years, and want to subsidize League, even though it loses the money because they feel like it's important for the player base. But you can see how this hextech chess system like literally cost them billions of dollars. And it probably shaved 5 or 10 years off of the life of League of Legends, because it's not going to be as profitable because everyone owns a bunch of skins and there's no new players to bring into an already saturated game. So League's just screwed. So that's what I'm really upset about with the hextech chess system. Isn't just that they removed something that the players enjoyed or liked. It's that they shouldn't have ever put this in the game in the first place, from a business perspective or from a perspective of a player who just wanted League to last for a long time. For a company that says they're interested in investing in the game for generations and generations, you can't have enough money to invest in the game for generations if you give away 5 times as many skins for free as people were willing to buy. So that's about all that there is to it. I think that they've really, really lost it. So like I said, League of Legends revenue, from the numbers that we have available, I think that League of Legends revenue is probably down over 50% since 2017. Their revenue has been declining for the last 8 years, and we're probably looking at, unironically, very seriously, the late stages of League of Legends as a game. And that's why you see the gacha systems and the super expensive skins coming in, because we're no longer 5 or 10 years out from the game being on its deathbed. We're literally looking at, if they do not put these $200 skins in the game, if they do not milk the whales, then the game's going to shut down, like at some point in the next couple of years. Or, well, not next couple of years. I think it could last 5 or 8 years. But, that's stretching it. And it depends on how much Tencent wants to subsidize it. And we'll have to see what keeps happening with the numbers. My guess is, just like player counts and just like viewership for esports, Riot will probably stop releasing these numbers, even the few numbers that we do have, if things start to look really bad. So, I can already see, for example, that we don't see the 2024 number, right? So are we even going to get more data? They stopped releasing the League of Legends numbers in 2021, right? Which is why this is our last number we have here. So it's not looking too hot. I know it's a bit of a downer, but that's just kind of the reality of the situation. I think Riot really mismanaged the game. If I owned this IP, if I was like an investor who owned this company, if I was Tencent, I would be furious, because not only have you killed the longevity of the game, which is going to piss off the player base, and taken away content that the players were getting for free that pissed off the player base, but you're also the amount of billions of dollars that they threw away with this decision on the loot boxes is absolutely insane. So, with that being said, good luck in solo queue while it lasts, and have a wonderful day.